Hey guys, it's Penelope in London. I'm going to do a little slideshow. And really, at this time, a lot of us are going through immense, sort of trauma and suffering. And a lot of us are doing it in silence because of the whole COVID thing and things being shut down. We're at a point in reality where things are not going to go back to the normal that, we were used to when we come out of this in 2021. And really, this time, astrologically, is really about cleaning up our hypersensitivities from childhood. And we've all got them. There's not one of us that got away from being hypersensitive about something. And that would be the wound, which is to do with Chiron. And I am in part an evolutionary astrologer, so I do read charts. And if you haven't listened to me before, please subscribe, because I'm coming out with regular stuff, and I'm going to be doing lives as well on my YouTube channel, and really get to put some great stuff out there in the coming weeks and months ahead. I wanted to start with this flower, in the respect that I see flowers as not from a religious aspect of God, but that God is innate in all of us, like the whole universe. We have things like neutrinos as well, which pass through the body. If you look up what a neutrino is, and you look at Wolfgang Pauli, he was related to friendship with Carl Gustav Jung, who was one of the greatest minds. And Carl Gustav Jung, came up with the word synchronicity. That's something else you can look up. So synchronicity is where, things happen and they're sort of giving us signs. And I think with flowers, like we can see, like they're miracles, they're little miracles, like in the spring or the summer when we're out and about, the beauty that's all around us. And we're so bogged down at the moment with, worry, fear, anxiety about what the future holds. But we have to remember that, flowers really existed from the beginning of time. And I do know, I think, I can't remember what book it was, but Eckhart Tolle, I did read, I don't really follow him at all, but there was one book that I got recently, which that he basically explained about the, flowers and the beginning of time. And, also that flowers give us life as well, with the bees that pollinate and go from one flower to another. So we are magnificent creatures, and us human beings, and we need to make sure that we are doing our healing work and don't get bogged down and feel that life isn't worth living, because a lot of people are going through recalling memories and being very hard on themselves. And it's good to be hard on the things with ourselves that aren't working for us anymore, or where we're codependent, and saying, come on now, being an adult for ourselves and saying, this, I don't need to do that anymore, I don't need to live in fear anymore. And there's healthy being hard on ourselves, but there's another side, which is where we're hard on ourselves and we're not nurturing ourselves. So the next slide is this. It's a sense of self-worth is necessary for us to protect ourselves. So this is in all things. We need to make sure that we have a healthy sense of self-worth. And we've been basically maybe brought up by parents, no blame, this is not the blame game, but we've been brought up in the world and society where we've basically have got really crap self-worth, and we don't value ourselves. Like that flower I just showed you before, the value in that single flower that has a very short lifespan, the value that gives the eyes, the senses, is stunning. So can you imagine really our value? It's beyond comprehension. But we don't look at ourselves that way. We might look in the mirror and berate ourselves or see the faults in ourselves. And this is what we need to stop doing, so that we begin to flower and bloom. I'm going to read this now, because this is part of Pete Walker, and it's part of the healing work, which is Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving. I will put the link below. This is from Pete Walker's website. The book, Complex PTSD, is to do with the fact that we have complexes, and complexes again, Carl Gustav Jung, you know, basically got to the bottom of, he wanted to understand what complexes are, where do they come from, why do we carry them? You know, in part, we're carrying complexes over from our ancestors. Some might believe, you know, past lives, but wherever they come from, you know, we need to sort of shake off our complexes, which will be our hypersensitivity, which will put us into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. And the important thing is that when we go into the fight, flight, freeze, there's the healthy fight, flight, freeze. So, you know, if you're walking across the road and a car's coming at you, you're going to go into fight or flight. You're going to move. And that's very, very healthy. But when we're doing it when we don't need to, because we're worried about our futures or we're worried about relationships, then we're basically, our cortisol levels, every time we go into fight, flight or freeze, or we fawn, we're being extra nice to people that we you know, maybe shouldn't be being extra nice to, following long rules and regulations that we don't want to follow, then we're basically, our cortisol levels will be out of kilter. And when our cortisol levels are out of kilter, we then affect our immune system, which, you know, it dampens it down, which means that our health then gets affected. You might notice that in yourself, like you get very upset about something, you know, a breakup, or, you know, you're in fear, and then you get sickly for a couple of days, you know, and I'm not talking about catching COVID so much as, you know, you catch a cold, you'll get, your allergies will come up. So we can see that the body is, you know, it's very in tune with our emotional states. So let's have a look at this and see if we can begin to understand how we begin to shift our emotional states. So this is Pete Walker, Recovering the Adventure of Life Beyond Addiction. So addiction is not just drugs, alcohol, and such like. That, you know, there's multitudes of ways that we are addicted. And one of the ways is that we have codependency, which again is not like blaming ourselves. It's just that we're expecting other people to save us. And as a result of that, we can live quite a depressed sort of lifestyle, because people generally are as, you know, messy as we are. And that's not, again, it's not a fault, it's just being human. So we're expecting people to save us that haven't saved themselves generally. And that's in relationship too. And our focus is completely way off as a result of that, on what we're supposed to be focusing on at this time, particularly with the current astrology that's showing up. So let's read what Pete Walker says. He says, I am often saddened when I hear adult children parrot the conventional wisdom that it is bad to feel sorry for yourself. This so-called wisdom shames people out of normal, healthy self-pity. Everyone needs to occasionally feel sorry for themselves. Tears for the self are some of the most potently healing experiences of self-recovery. Self-pity in balance and moderation is extremely healing. Recovery in the fact is often very limited until there are profound experiences of feeling sorry for the self. So let's stop there. So when we're healing, if we're told that we can't, you know, have healthy anger or healthy blame, then we're basically going to be turning that inwards. So at some point, we need to get to the point, and through Pete Walker's book, you're going to be able to do this if you buy this book, if you get his book, you're going to be able to understand what that is. You're going to get some healthy anger, and then you're going to be able to, you know, turn that around into, you know, starting taking proper care for yourself. So healthy anger doesn't mean we're attacking other people. It means that we're acknowledging, you know, that we're not happy, that we're pissed off with the world, that, you know, that we weren't treated well, and how that's had an effect on our adult lives. He goes on to say, self-pity and balanced moderation is the miraculously releasing gift of self-sorrowing. Self-sorrowing is one of the most beautiful and restorative of emotional experiences. There is nothing in the world more centering than a good, unabashed cry about one's troubles. Nothing dissolves the awful abandonment pain of the inner child like a good cry for the self. This is especially true when the adult child imagines himself or herself back in the past, tenderly comforting his crying inner child or her. Self-pity is only dysfunctional when it is excessive. This is sometimes seen in people who spend extreme amounts of time feeling sorry for themselves. Although long periods of self-pity can be healthy in some phases of recovery, it is possible to get stuck in and addicted to self-pity. This is sometimes the case with the long-term recovery who does nothing effective to recover the losses of her childhood or his. She may or he become so disempoweringly lost in self-pity that she or he never acts to change abusive or neglectful situations. This kind of excessive self-pity usually looks so dysfunctional that it may even alienate others from healthy and moderate self-pity in an all or none kind of way. Self-pity, however, is not a black and white issue. We do not need to throw out the baby of self-compassion with the bathwater of excessive self-pity. So, I went through a period where I, was able to 2 years of trauma psychoanalysis that ended in July this year. I was able to, really look at what I really felt. The beautiful thing about psychoanalysis or therapy is that with a good therapist, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to build a bond. You're going to be able to do healthy anger and healthy grieving as well, and you're going to have the support there. And as we talk things out, we then begin to be able to trust another human being, because people who've been through heinous abuse as kids, we didn't have anybody to trust. So we go through life and, sometimes it can sort of put us in a position where we can't meet our own needs because we have arrested development, which is where, we've not been able to express ourselves fully as kids. So that means as adults, we're in the same boat. We're still playing out the same tune, so to speak. So the next slide. Crying for the self is especially therapeutic when old pain resurfaces from unresolved trauma. The average dysfunctional family leaves its survivors with lifelong tendencies to flashback on some occasions into shame, fear, and emptiness. Unashamed crying can often resolve and work through the pain of such experiences. It is a sad statement about our culture that we have no positive term for the healthy side of self-pity. We are praised as compassionate when we feel sorry for others, but there is no corresponding term for the feeling sorry for ourselves. Little wonder we are so codependent. Society's taboo against self-pity offers us no choice but to limit our compassion to only caring about the pain of others. So, it's okay to look after our pain. It's okay to, begin to, the shadow side is that you might go through stages as you're recovering of feeling hatred for what you went through. Let's get real about this. You can feel anger, hatred, be really peed off with the world. And if we don't have that full expression, then we just don't evolve the original trauma. Because if we weren't able to feel it then, we're just going to be really down on ourselves. So it's really, please get this book. I just can't tell you enough. Next bit is we need to resist those who toxically shame us for being on the pity pot. Whenever we express normal sadness about our painful life experiences, this is true whether they are past or present. Our recovery can only be aided by the rejection of this pervasive social indoctrination against self-pity. We must refuse to accept the nonsense that it is not good to feel sorry for ourselves, we must refuse to accept the nonsense that it is good to feel sorry for others, but not for ourselves. We must strive to reclaim for ourselves the potent healing tool of sometimes feeling sorry and sorrow for ourselves. Unfortunately, the right and need to feel sorrow for ourselves can be very difficult to recover. Most of us have been thoroughly brainwashed against self-compassion by our parents and wider society. Many of us also have had this shaming of self-compassion reinforced by the religion we were raised up in. Consequently, many survivors have come to believe that self-pity is some awful sin rather than the precious gift that it is. Some adult children may be helped to reclaim their self-compassion by remembering that even Jesus felt sorry for himself. He modeled the positive side of self-pity when he wept in the garden and on the cross. So then, what follows now is a list of some of the most common developmental arrests that occur in complex PTSD. These are our complexes. It's where we're hypersensitive, okay, with memories and stuff that's happened to us. And you may find you experience a diminishment, and you will, I'm telling you, of these as you work through, when we work through the book and speak about this and get open about, what's real for us, we will find a diminishment as we begin the healing work. It doesn't all change overnight, but it begins to change bit by bit. If you get the book, Complex PTSD, I didn't write it, Pete Walker, you give yourself 2 years down the road, sounds like a long time, but it's worth not reading the book 2 years down the road, but begin, you're a work of art, begin to work on yourself and give yourself time to say, okay, I'm on a healing journey now. What happens is that we get to, self-acceptance, and we get a clear sense of identity. We'll get to self-compassion, self-protection, a capacity to draw comfort from relationship, the ability to relax, the capacity for self-expression, which means being our authentic selves, which means that, we're not just going to, fawn and just go along with other people's belief systems about what we should feel about what we went through and how we should handle it. We begin to, also healthy, lovely relationships with people. And, we begin to get willpower and motivation. We get peace of mind. We can self-care better. We'll begin to look after ourselves and stop the inner critic. We will, reclaim the belief that life is a gift, and our self-esteem and self-confidence will go up. See here, Pete Walker, Pete/Walker.com. You check out his website too. And here's some reparenting affirmations. So I want you to just imagine that you might not be able to do this, but for me, my 5-year-old self in front of me, beautiful child of me, not some, just really reclaiming it. And what would I say to her? So my reparenting affirmations to her would be, I am so glad you were born. You are such a good person. I love you. And I am doing my best to always be on your side. You can come to me whenever you're feeling hurt or bad. You do not have to be perfect to get my love and protection. All of your feelings are okay with me. I am always glad to see you. It's okay for you to be angry, and I won't let you hurt yourself or others when you are. You can make mistakes. They are your teachers. You can know what you need and ask for help. You can have your own preferences and tastes. You are a delight to my eyes, and you can choose your own values, and you can pick your own friends, and you don't have to like everyone. And you can sometimes feel confused and ambivalent and not know all the answers. I am very proud of you. So that's it. This is my message. It's just, take this in and think about where your pain is, and we begin to evolve this. So I think that's it. Let's see what the next slide is. You are allowed. And so this is my final slide. I can't remember where this came from, but I did copy it some time ago because it helped me. So you are allowed. You are allowed to outgrow people and jobs. You are allowed to use your own voice, think your own thoughts, and dream your own dreams. You are allowed to distance yourself from anything that doesn't motivate you or help you grow. You're allowed to choose who has a say in your life and who doesn't. And you're allowed to change the terms of your life according to your own conditions. You are allowed to start doing things that please you. You're allowed to do things because you want to, and you're allowed to be free to be who you are. You're allowed to see the world using your own eyes, to paint with your own brush, using your own colors. You are allowed. Okay, that's my little video for today. I'll catch you later. And if you want to help, contact me, book a session with me on my below the video or my booking page. You'll find it on Facebook or below also this YouTube. Thank you.